and we'll get rocking. So I'm excited about that. All right. Well, what's up, Mike? Good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us today. I appreciate it with the crazy weather we're having and crazy times we're in right now. It's
Yes, sir.
March 18th, and you're halfway through your fast start. So
Yes,
uh,
sir.
I know last time I met you, it was in an interview last week, and now we're sitting here, and you're close to your 6K promotion in your first few days. And
Yes,
Claire's
sir.
on with us as well because she crushed your training and obviously gave you some good advice and made some good connections. So I'm fired up for you, man, and great start so far for sure. So
Thank you.
uh, I'd like to let you know that the objective of this meeting is really for a few things. Number one, I want to get to know you a little bit better, build a good relationship. Number two, I want to talk to you a little bit more about going after a big fast start. Obviously, not everybody has big goals like that or the time to go after big numbers. But when we see somebody in our training that we feel like has a lot of potential, when we find somebody that has a great work ethic and an awesome attitude, and somebody who just really likes to excel and go above and beyond what the norm is, we want to make sure we give them everything that we can to equip them with the tools to be successful. So I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to review some things that you can take notes on if you choose. And then the last thing is I just want to talk to you about the advantages of going after a big fast start and where that can take you in the future, and set up a few just fundamental objectives for you for the second half, right? And help you get there. I sold $12,000 in my fast start. My first weekend was only $1,000, and so my second week was like 11K, and it wasn't balanced where it was 50-50, right?
Yeah.
There's a million different examples, probably not a million, but there's quite a few different examples of different types of fast starts and different ways that people have succeeded at it. But ultimately, the most important thing, in my opinion, is the journey and the process, not the destination or the results. And what's really important for you is the growth that you experience as you go through it. So I'm fired up to get the time in, and thanks for making that time with me as well. So
Thank you.
let's start off with a little bit of rapport, man. I'd love to get to know you a little bit better. So tell me your life story in a nutshell. Give me a little bit more background about you.
So I was born and raised on a small ranch in New Mexico. Went to a small town for a few years. I decided on myself I needed a better education. So I left and went to New Mexico Military Institute, and that's where I got my high school graduation. And from there, I tried to join the Army. I was denied service due to a birth defect, but then I kind of worked for my father-in-law in the wind and oil business for about 6 months, and then I came here. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm gonna be a new father.
All right. Well, congratulations on that. So what
Thank
brought you
you.
to Edmond and Oklahoma?
Um, the in-laws, her side of the family's all here, so that's why we're here.
Cool. How'd you guys meet?
Military school,
Okay. Nice. Good deal. So what's her name?
or Jaslyn.
Jaslyn. All right. Perfect. So that's definitely one of your motivations.
It is.
That's pretty good. All right. Cool. So you guys dating in a relationship? Where are you guys at with Jaslyn?
um, we got married in January.
Okay. Cool. So married to Jaslyn, and that is awesome, man. Very cool. So married to Jaslyn. What do you guys know a boy or a girl yet?
We're having a boy in the next couple weeks or days, so
Yeah. You guys have a name?
he's gonna be named after me and my father. He's gonna be the third.
All right. Cool. So Michael the third, huh?
Yeah.
All right. That's awesome, man. Cool. Well, that's obviously one of your big motivations pushing you. So it's funny you mentioned, I think it's called NIMI, right? New Mexico
Yes, sir.
Military Institute. So one of my really good friends in college, his name was Brett. And Brett basically was an officer down at NIMI, and
Yeah.
then got into the Army and did a bunch of things. And
Mhm.
he was an officer, and he really enjoyed it. Told me some cool stories about that down there in southern New Mexico, no doubt. So
Oh yeah.
I'm familiar. Cool. So have you ever done sales or any business before this?
Um, so when I was in the oil industry, I kind of did the sales part. I kind of like watched that mostly, but then I was making sure that all the ranchers and the wind builders and oil people were all taken care of. Everything went smoothly and made sure each side was happy and that the job got done. So kind of, sort of.
Okay, cool. So you're more a liaison and kind of a translator, making sure that you
Yeah.
keep the peace. And this one's a
Oh,
little
yeah.
bit more hands-on, direct with individual clients. So cool.
Yes.
Well, I love that you hit on that because every part of life has an element of sales in it built in somewhere. for sure. So, what do you feel like your proudest accomplishments have been? Did you play any sports in school? Did you do any
Um,
extracurricular activities or hobbies?
so I was part of Future Farmers of America. So that's, if you've heard of us,
Yeah,
great. If some people haven't, but all that is a group of kids in high school and in elementary school that get together and try to spread the idea of farming is the way of life, trying to get more people into it because it's kind of a dying culture. And then I won state in basketball and football and track a few years. And then, but my proudest accomplishment is being a father. So,
yeah, yeah. Once that happens, nothing else matters, right? So
yeah,
that's cool. Yeah, I've got an 11-year-old boy right now, and my wife and I had him in college. His name's Tyler, and then I've got a 7-year-old daughter. Her name's Sophia. And you're gonna love it, man. Being a father is sometimes the most scary thing, and also the most exhilarating and exciting thing all at the same time. So,
yes,
uh,
sir.
yeah. And if you need any tips, man, I'm definitely here for you. Can teach you more than just how to make money and sell knives. So, good. Well, hey, thanks again so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I can see a lot of similarities between yourself and myself. Growing up, I had never done any business or sales before this either, and really, I started the job just to make some quick cash on a winter break, pay for a snowboarding trip, and then quit. And 14 years plus later, I'm still here making money, and this has been my only job for the last decade plus. So really excited about sitting down with you and having a conversation. I know you're in a smaller training, but I can tell you I've run training classes as large as 50 people before, and every time I run a training, I always look for who's the person with an incredible attitude, a really good work ethic, who's the person that has a desire and will to succeed and go big. And when I think about it, that's definitely, a lot of the qualities that I see you saying you've got. And then, of course, what Claire's bragged to me about as she ran your training is pretty exciting too. So I just want you to know that the people that we hand select from some of the large trainings, they aren't always the ones that have the biggest sales right off the bat.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, they're the people that have the right character traits and qualities more than just the ones that they get off to a good start. Sometimes they have both, right? But that's not how we make decisions on who our candidate is. And for me,
Okay.
every week I want to target at least one person that becomes my sole mission to help them get to $10,000. And we always like to have what we call the day 4 PC or this conversation on a Tuesday or Wednesday, kind of around that halftime mark, right? Just to really
Yeah.
help them, finish the game strong. So really excited about that. And I just want you to know, if it wasn't for the virus and the lockdown that we're having, I would certainly be taking you out to some coffee or breakfast right now.
All right.
There's really nowhere that's open though, right? And
Yeah.
so and we'd be getting a little bit more FaceTime for sure. But I'm sure at some point when the virus passes and this too shall pass, we'll be able to get some interaction FaceTime for sure, and hopefully by then be able to celebrate your 10K promotion. So what I'm fired up about is that you've knocked out close to $6,000 already, in a very short amount of time. I think 4,700 first weekend. You were the number 4 representative in the nation last week, which was cool. I hit a couple promotions. I think you got close to an $800 check coming your way. So you're off to a great start. By the way, I only sold 1,000 my first weekend. And then I went to advanced training that you had yesterday. And the day after, I had 5 demos. I had 4 sales. 3 of them were homemaker plus 8s using the secret weapon, and I had like a $3,500 day. So I went from 1,000 up to kind of where you're at now, and that's where the light bulb went on. That's where the moment hit for me, and it was like, gosh, maybe I should go after 10, right? And for somebody like you might have already been thinking, well, I was thinking that on day one, and that's exciting. But I think it's important to mention that it doesn't matter where you're at. It's never about days. It's only about demos. It's never about results, because we know that business is a numbers game, and the numbers always play themselves out. So, when we hand select somebody, it's always based on those character traits, and it's very evident to me that if you do the right things, you can sell a lot more than 10,000. I know there's another level at 15,000 and possibly even $20,000. I think our state record is Whitney Finch back in like 2014, student at OSU, and I sold 20,500 in his first 10 days. So made $5 grand in 10 days. And, being a new father for you, Mike, that could be a a big blessing, right? To be able to have that kind of, emergency cash on hand if you need it for any reason. So let's talk a little bit more. And it doesn't matter if you're shooting for 10, 15, or 20K. Again, whatever it is, anything over 10 is going to be really solid. And I think it's important that you understand that anything over $10,000, you're doing something that less than 1% of 1% of our company actually does, right? It's very elite, it's very unique, it's very special, and it's a big deal, man. And most people don't luck themselves into selling 10K. They've got to go big. They've got to work hard. They've got to work, in many cases, harder than they ever have in their entire life. And mentally, physically, and emotionally, it's going to be one of the most challenging things you've ever done. But all at the same time, it's going to be the most rewarding, right? And I always like to say that, like, with bigger risk in life, right, comes way bigger reward, and that's kind of the way things break down for sure. So what are you thinking about right now as a goal coming into this meeting? Like, what's something that fires you up or gets you excited? What have you been promoting to your clients?
Um, Mostly just the fact that we're all friends. We all know each other forever. And I'm not trying to give them something that they're not going to enjoy, that they're actually going to love what I'm doing and love what I get them and what they get themselves.
Yeah. Cool. Well, it's a great way to put it, and that's what I love about Cutco is whether a client buys nothing, that's
Mhm.
kind of a bummer when it happens, but it has, or they buy one knife or they buy a full set. Every time that happens, right, we know that they're taken care of forever because we've got a forever guarantee. The product's great. We're not going anywhere, and so I love that you're talking about how it's really just about helping rather than selling, right? And so I think
Yeah.
we're right on track with that. What goal are you sharing when it comes to like your fast start goal? What are you shooting for?
I'm telling them, well, at first I was telling 10,000. I think I'm going to start bumping it up today about 15,000 because
Okay.
last night she gave me a bunch of numbers that I could do it. So that was really motivating in itself. And
Cool.
also just, that I have this goal of like 15,000 to say, and that I'm trying to get it before my child comes. So that only helps me out to work just as hard, but not as much.
Yeah. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, that's the cool thing. Once you get to that 30% margin, then it's not a lot of effort to be able to make some incredible income. You think about, what you sold last week. And again, not every week could be like that. But,
Mhm.
even if you were doing 2K in a week at 30%, it's a $600 paycheck. And you think about how long, how hard, how much effort or time away from family it takes sometimes to make $600, right? Well,
Yeah.
you can earn that in a very short amount of time. And, think about what you've done so far without having a lot of skill and imagine how great you'll be after doing it 40, 50, 60 times for sure. So
Mhm.
the first thing I want to teach you right now is the purpose of a goal. I don't believe the purpose of a goal is to actually achieve the goal. I believe the purpose of a goal is to stretch yourself and who you become through the process of going after it, right? So I'll give you an example. I don't hit a lot of the goals I set for myself because if I were hitting all my goals, I think that my goals would probably be a little bit too small, right? So my
Yeah.
objective is to make sure that I set goals that are challenging, that scare me, that push me, and then understand that even if I miss that goal, I'm going to hit a mark, right? That's going to be higher than the lower mediocre goal that I would have set for myself, right?
Mhm.
So there's no harm done in just promoting 20K at this point. If you're going to bump it to 15, then why not bump it to 20? Because all it takes is one client to hear your 20K goal and say, you know what, I'm really inspired by you. I used to be an entrepreneur too, and at a young age, and now I own multiple businesses. I understand what it's like to pursue a goal, and you got a kid on the way. Let me just buy the Cutco kitchen. Or we even had a client one time that decided to buy a $9,000 order, right? Some stuff for themselves, for their family, for other things. And all it takes is one person to buy in, right? And if you do that, well, if your goal was 15, 3 or 4K, well, that just reaches your goal, right? But if your goal was 20, they might buy more, right? So again, it never hurts to have a really big, scary, audacious goal to go after. And then understand that if you don't hit it, you did everything in your power to go after it and make that thing happen. So I would just really encourage you to think about that. The difference between a 10, 15, 20K fast start really is just your top 20%. It's one or two clients buying an ultimate or a Cutco kitchen instead of like a homemaker or a signature. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
you just got to understand it's worth it to stretch those goals and think big. So let's dive into a couple of things, and I'm going to help you make a list right now. We don't have to take too much time on this, but I do want to make sure that you're putting this in your notes. So I want to talk about what it takes and what's in it for you. And the first thing I want to talk about is what's in it for you. What are all the benefits of making sacrifices, right? Because when I think about going after a big fast start, this is going to basically be knife camp if you really want it, right? So you're eating, breathing, sleeping, living, dreaming, Cutco. You basically don't have a life. I remember in my fast start, I didn't do many of the chores at my house. My mom and dad got upset. My girlfriend was like, "You're choosing knives over me." And I was like, "Hey, only for 10 days. My friends thought I was dead because I wasn't responding. They're like, "Dude, you want to hang out?" And I was like, "No, man, I'm at knife camp. I'll call you in a couple weeks." Right. So, but at the end of it, I had a lot of money in the bank, and I was able to, pay a cleaning crew to help clean my parents' house. I was able to take my girlfriend out to a dinner and get her some good flowers, so she didn't break up with me at the time. And I had a lot of money for, pizza and beverages for the rest of the semester with my buddies. So it was worth it, right? The short-term sacrifice for the long-term gain. And you've been in the military, you know what it's like to really have a discipline. But what I got to share with you is that something like this mentally, physically, and emotionally can be the most challenging thing that you'll ever go after. So I want to make sure you understand all the benefits and why it's worth it. Especially with Jaslyn. Gosh, I mean, she's less than a month before she, it pops. And at this point, you want to make sure you're there for as much as possible. But sometimes there's other ways of being there for her than just physically, right? And so I'm sure that she's pretty excited about the opportunity for the income that you can make. And I'm going to give you some tips on that for sure. So let's dive in. Number one, I think one of the biggest is the money, right? So the earnings. You sell $10,000, you made $2,000 in income in 10 days. 15,000, you've made $3,500 in 10 days, and 20,000, you've made $5,000 in 10 days, right? Now, of course, it's not an all or nothing thing. It's like, oh, you only sold $9,000, you get nothing. It's like, no, you get paid off of everything you sell. But I think it's important to kind of know those marks, right? So what I would encourage you to do is write down, what would you do with the money, right? Where would it go? And I hope that, the number one thing you write down is savings. A lot of people, when they make a lot of money, they blow it just as quickly, and then it didn't really make a difference in their life, right? So there's a concept called paying yourself first, and the best way to pay yourself is to save. So my advice, whatever you make, save at least 50% of it right off the top, right? After that, if you've got some bills or other expenses or whatever that may be, put some of that cash down into those things. But I don't know where you're at financially. You don't really have to talk about it. But the first step to building great wealth, Mike, in life is having what we call $1,000 emergency account. Basically, it's $1,000 that even if you have an emergency, you can always tap into. Now, emergency is not paying for food because you're hungry. An emergency is not like, any of those little feeling things that happen throughout our day. An emergency would be like, dude, you blew a tire, you didn't have a way to replace it. And without a car, you're not going to be able to do demos and make money, right? So it's just having that mentality first. Obviously, after you do that, then we start to pay down debt and other things like that. But first step would be get at least $1,000 saved. The last part of this whole money thing that I'd write down for yourself is a reward. So you can tell me this, but what's something that you've been putting off for a while that was kind of more of a want than a need? Maybe it was like you've been wanting a new stereo for your car, or maybe it's something like you've been wanting something cool as a gift for Jaslyn because she's been pregnant, or maybe it's something that you've wanted for yourself, like a new phone, right? But I'm talking about an item that's maybe a few $100s, right? That you just couldn't really make the justification for purchasing. But if you hit your goal, you're going to give yourself permission to buy it. So anything come to mind for you?
Nothing right away for sure. I have a smaller car that I've had since high school. So definitely I want to get a bigger family sized vehicle. So I'm definitely going to start saving for that.
Cool. So maybe it's just saying, hey, I'm going to take 300 and put it into a starting down payment for the new car, right? I mean, it doesn't have to be something that's immediate gratification, but I do believe that when you hit a goal, it's important to give yourself permission to spend a little bit of cash, right? And do that. And who knows, maybe it's like a watch or a necklace for Jaslyn to commemorate, the birth of Mike the Third, right? So, or Michael the Third. So that might be it too. Cool. Good. Number 2 we can write down is 4 to 5 promotions in the matter of 10 days. So this is a huge deal because when you can show that you've been promoted multiple times in a short period of time on a resume, it is a huge confidence boost for a future employer. So again, could you sell knives for the rest of your life? Absolutely. And we have people who have literally, they made this their career, they've made millions of dollars doing the job. The likelihood of that, probably low, but it's possible, right? So when you advance and move up with our company, it's going to make you look so much better to other employers, right? So knowing that you got a 300% raise in a short period of time makes a very big difference. Cool. So just think about that, and just think about how, the decision of 2 weeks of commitment could literally revolutionize your life for years to come. Number three is the VIP night. We call it a VIP night, but this is the limo ride that you win. It is a blast, man. There's only so many details we can share with you because every time it's a little bit different, but it's so much fun because we're able to rent a really nice party bus. We've got all of our top CSPs, FSMs, we've got our managers, and we just have a time of our life, man. I think that the misconception is a lot of people think it's like this crazy party. And while we have a lot of fun and we definitely enjoy ourselves, what it really comes down to is the quality time, the relationships, the memories, the photos, right? The delicious dinner that we pay for, and just the ability to go out and hang out completely carefree for a night and know that you're a champion. You earned your seat on the bus, right? And you're getting to socialize and network with people that are making six figures a year, hang out with them, get their phone numbers, right? And that's a pretty signature experience, no doubt. So we like to say that it's a night that it's a phenomenal night, but it's very classy, very professional. We're going to have some fun on it too, but it's pretty cool. Number four is the Fast Start prizes. So you already know about the fact that you've won a fork and an ice cream scoop, a fisherman solution, the entire homemaker. You're like one order away from winning the hunting knife and the pocket knife, so don't blow that. And then you've got some other prizes coming as well. But I just want to share with you that that's over $1,000 worth of free Cutco. And you've already noticed what you can do on a virtual demo without any Cutco. You can imagine when you start to really build your leads list with face-to-face appointments out here with real Cutco in your hand. When you have everything, man, it's so exciting to do demos because there's so much more conviction and confidence, right, with what you're presenting, what you're showing off. So, it's almost too much to put in your sample kit bag. But one of my favorite things is getting the box for my Fast Start. It's one of my favorite memories. The box is massive, right? And you're just ripping through this. It's like Christmas Day. You're having a great time. And it's really fun to be able to just, take a photo of it all laid out and be like, wow, I got all of this for free. Pretty incredible, no doubt. Number five is the President's Club letter. And I'm sure that Claire's mentioned this to you. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Perfect. So it's pretty incredible to be able to get a hand-signed letter from anybody that is a good leader, right? It's another thing to get one from the CEO of a $250 million marketing firm, right? And you think about getting that recommendation letter with your name on it, date marked, stamped, and just given to you. It's really exciting to be able to use that for the next decade plus when you're applying for any job or you need somebody to refer you. It's got our CEO's office contact info on there. It's got my personal cell phone. It's one of those things that, like, this letter could be, a golden ticket to getting any of your dream jobs or anything that you want in your future. So it's totally worth it. Obviously, it's not just your Fast Start sales that can earn you that, but it's pretty impressive when you knock it out in the first couple of weeks on the jobs for sure. Last couple on here is the scholarship chance. Again, we have 2 scholarships. The first one is the All-American. You do have to be in 12 credit hours worth of class to be eligible for that. If you're not right now, no biggie. You can always compete another semester. And then the second one is the Team Builder Scholarship. And this allows you to get 3 or more of your friends on the team. And then your sales and their sales stack up. And that total sales mark can either win you a little bit of cash and bragging rights, or it can help you win a bigger amount of cash as a scholarship to help you fund your schooling or any schooling in the future. And you don't have to be an actual student with 12 classes right now to compete for that one. So get you off to a really good start for the Team Builder for sure. The last couple on here: fairs and shows and events team qualification. I'm sure that Claire's mentioned this as well, but here in the Great Plains division, we're part of TGP, which is Texoma Great Plains, and we are the #1 events team in the entire company. We have been for years. Last year, we did about 90 events throughout the state of Oklahoma and Northwest Arkansas, and just those 90 events sold just under $1 million at the booth, not including the follow-up business. So we've got this program on lock, and right now our biggest weakness is we don't have more people. So I'm looking for more leaders to emerge and to take some of these shifts, right? So once you're at 15,000, you're eligible to train. April 26th is the next training date that we have coming up. And once and you can also train at the booth with these CSPs. We have 3 of the best in the business. They're all over $1 million in sales. One of them over $2 million. to learn from. We have everything scripted. It's really cool. And once you're over 20,000, you can start to work your first few events. So this is not replacement for your demos, right? But Mike, what this would be is supplemental. So now you've got multiple layers in your business, right? And you're doing demos, you're doing, events, you're doing possibly service calls, which is where you're sharpening people's knives and selling them more product. So these types of things really start to build in. Cool. So pretty exciting, man. And timing wise, it couldn't be more effective having a big fast start and getting plugged into that for sure. Last few that we have on here, a future management role, right? I always like to tell people that once you're over 3K in sales, then you're somebody that I want to start to talk to a little bit more about being an assistant manager in training once you're out of your fast start. And once you're over 10K in sales, you've definitely had enough experience to be able to be a great leader and help manage others. And some people love the management opportunity. Some people don't. My advice to you is it never hurts to try, right? And so some people give it a shot for a couple of weeks, see how they feel about it, and then kind of go from there. And what's really cool is that we allow you to do both the events team role as well as leadership and advancement role all at the same time. But we can always talk in the future about the possibility of running a branch office or running a district office, right? For just a summer or a year round. And what's cool about it is it's never something that you have to commit to now, but at least you know you have that as an option, and you're in a position of choice, which is a really good place to be. Cool. Last big one on here is you become legendary. And when I talk about being legendary, I remind you that less than 1% of 1% of the company actually sells 10K in their fast start. So it's a pretty special thing. And once you've done it, man, it's one of those accomplishments you'll never forget. You'll be telling your kids when they grow up and your grandkids that, you sold 10,000 plus in your first 10 days when you started. If they ever sell Cutco, you'll challenge them to beat you. And if you ever meet people who've worked for Vector, one of the number one questions that I hear come up is, hey, what'd you sell in your fast start, right? And I remember early on when my manager told me that, I never wanted to know that for the rest of my life I could say, I fell short of 10K. Like if that was my goal, right? I wanted to be able to say, I hit it, I did it, right? And a lot of people, that sell 10K, they're so proud of it. And the ones that don't, they still have a lot of pride and success, but they always look back and they say this, I wish I would have worked harder. Right? That's the number one thing that holds them back is I wish I would have put more effort in. And many of them could have sold 10K, but they just got lackadaisical or lazy or complacent. And, all it takes is one day to slip up like that. And now you fall short of it for sure. So that's the 9 things, man, that are in it for you. I'm sure we could come up with some other personal reasons, but those are kind of some of the, just plug and play ones that I like to discuss. So what I'd like you to do is look over that list and put a star next to the number 1 thing or the number 1 and number 2 thing. Like what would be the biggest motivators for you? The cool thing is go after the goal, you get all of them, right? But I really want to know what your hot button is and what you really are fired up most for, right? So what do you think your top 1 or 2 would be on the list?
Definitely my probably number 1 is just the future like management side of it. I'd love to grow in a company that I know that likes me as well. And then my number 2 is probably earnings, just because of a growing family.
Cool. Good. Well, it's great to hear that you're already thinking big, and sometimes it helps to just look over the list and then think about that. So, we know that on the tough times and the days that you're not feeling the best and maybe a bit discouraged or down, we all have those bad days. To pick you back up, talk about the money, talk about the opportunity, talk about the advancement, and maybe even look back over this list to just remind yourself that it's well worth it. So, think about it this way, right? 10 days could change your life forever.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think about that, that's a pretty big statement. But one of the things I'll kind of ask you to think about is, would it be worth it for you to devote every hour of your life to Cutco for the next 7 days, right? For the remainder of this fast start to get everything on the list, right? Would it be worth it to sacrifice time with family, right? Maybe some friend time, some personal time, right? Make 100 calls a day, jump into doing 5 demos a day if you can, right? To be able to get all of that. And I think for most people like you, the answer would be a resounding yes, right? What we need to remember is it's not going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be worth it. And it's the fact that like you've already overcome a lot of big challenges in your life before. And I don't need to know you to know that, right? You know, how you do something is how you do everything. So you've had some really big challenges, I'm sure, at NIMI or in sports or in relationships or, you know, maybe in family, right? And sometimes you've had doubts of whether or not you'd be able to handle it, but you're a champion, right? You're somebody who is emotionally intelligent. You can keep your emotions low and you can focus on the task at hand. And people that can do that are the ones that are most successful. So you've already proven to yourself that you can do these types of things. It just hasn't been in the knife world, right? And so I just want you to maybe think back to those times and remember that those should be confidence boosters for you to really help you excel at this. And again, we're selling knives, dude. It's not the end of the world. If you don't hit your goal, like nobody dies, right? Like if you're, you know, a brain surgeon and you make a mistake, well, that's pretty stressful for sure. Or if you work for NASA and you blow it with your engineering device that, you know, ends up ruining the whole mission, like that's a really expensive mistake. But for us, what's the worst that happens? They don't buy the knives yet, right? I'm sure eventually they will. And you know, the cool thing is you just keep cranking, moving forward. So what I want you to know is that the hardest part of a fast start is not your work ethic. The hardest part of a fast start is people's schedules, right? As a society, people are messy. And so good customers reschedule. Not everybody answers the phone, right? Life happens, like dogs run away. Girlfriends and boyfriends break up with you. I'm sure that is not too much of a threat for you, but I'm just telling you all the stories, right? Family fights occur, deaths happen, right? Sometimes surprises occur, and we just don't know always how to handle it. But if you stay committed to the process and you really run the race all the way to the very end, you can accomplish whatever you want. And most fast starts, by the way, the biggest day is the very last day, right? And I'm going to tell some stories on that in a little bit. So before we jump into that, now that we've covered everything that's in it for you, what I want to do is have you make a list of all of the things you need to commit to make it happen, right? And again, some of these might be a little bit different because of the, you know, current lockdown that we're in and working from home, but I'm sure you'll be able to adjust. So number one is making sure you're on the phone every morning by 8 a.m. We've done research. The two best times to phone are 8 to 10 in the morning and then 6 to 8 at night. Now, to be clear, there's no bad time to get on the phone, but there are times that are more beneficial. And I'd say nowadays, with everybody being home, every time's a good time to get on the phone. But those are the best times, right? So again, 8 a.m. phone time every single morning. And one thing that really helped me was forcing myself to have accountability to come to my office every morning. Now, if you're not in a position where you can do that, just check in with Claire every morning before 8 and then make sure you're hitting the phones by 8 no matter what, right? And if you're doing this, Michael, this is a huge deal because what it allows you to do is to start your day by focusing on the number one thing that's going to get you to goal, and that is prospecting and booking demos, right? So even if you have a client that says, hey, can we do an 8 a.m. demo? That's like the only spot they have, okay. Otherwise, though, I wouldn't start your first appointment until like 10 a.m. That way, every morning you're providing yourself with 2 full hours to just jam the phone, book more demos, right? Ask for same-day appointments, and really try to fill every possible spot. Cool. So we always like to tell people in their fast start, you're either in a demo, on the phone, or at the office, and those are good habits. Number 2 is communication. It's all about checking in. You've done such an effective job with calling Claire before and during and after. And, you know, every now and then we all make the mistake or something happens and we don't get it done. But when you keep this hustle up, I can guarantee and assure you that you're going to have so much more success. When you had a big sale, she can make you feel good and celebrate with you. When you got your teeth kicked in and the rescheduler and no sale, she can build you back up and kind of peel you off the floor, right? But it's always good to have a coach, a mentor, an accountability partner, and that's what Claire's to do. That's what Claire's designed to do for you, right? So make sure you really commit to that communication. And the times you probably want to call her or me the least are the times you typically need to call us the most, right? So it's easy to call us after you sold like a big set, right? But it's after that bad demo where you're like, it's fine, I'll be okay, I'm good, right? It's like, you're not good, right? If you're having to like sell yourself on the fact that you are, like, you might be okay, but you'll be better after you talk to your manager, right? I'm not saying you can't do this without us, but it's a lot easier with us. So take advantage of that. Cool. Third thing that I really want you to do is to make sure that you are being a leader on GroupMe, right? Not being afraid to post your hard work, not being afraid to say, I'm on the phone making 20 calls, who's with me? Not being afraid to set a great example for people, right? Or promote that you've got 5 demos for the day and you're thinking about selling another grand today, right? Or I'm most excited about my 4 p.m. demo because it's one of my best 5. And again, this isn't designed to get you attention. It's designed to set a good example for so many other people. And in many cases, be the rabbit, right? Because once the rabbit starts to run, the dogs like to chase, right? So it's all about making sure that you're that leader, you're that example that people can look up to. And then you can have more pride in your success because you're not the only one that's growing or gaining momentum from it. Cool. Number 4 is your daily demo count. It's so important for you to commit to making sure that you complete a solid daily demo count. We like to say that 2 demos a day set you up for about 3K. 3 demos a day set you up for about 6K. 4 demos a day set you up for about 10K. And 5 demos a day is Champion's Way. That'll set you up for 15K plus, right? So when I think about that, the hardest part is getting people to book the demos or getting their schedules to align with your schedule, right? So again, like I said, in a demo on the phone or at the office, but make sure that every day is at least 3. We've had a lot of people sell 10K plus and not complete 40 demos, but never in 14 years have I had somebody who's done 40 demos and not sold $10,000. So the reason I share that with you is because it's a lot more fun to play the game of, can I complete 40 appointments in 10 days than to play the game of, do I know people that'll have the money to buy 10,000 bucks? You know what I mean? Because when I see people like in the past that sold, 12K or 15K or whatever, and they ended up only doing like 33 appointments or 27 appointments. Or I even had a kid back in Albuquerque, right? I think I told you I'm from New Mexico, and he was a full-time student going to ITT Tech. And I remember he ended up doing 14 demos. He had 15 sales and he sold $10,000, right? So again, all of these examples leave me wondering, what if that kid who did 10K and 14 demos would have done 40 demos? Right? Or what if the kid that did 27 would have done another 13? What would have happened if that were the case? So my challenge to you is to try to hit 40 demos completed much more than try to hit your sales goal. Because as you've mentioned, or as I've mentioned, we know that business is a numbers game. Cool. So again, it's all about the daily demo count, never about days, only about demos. And if you really wanted to, right? Think about it. You could do, you're doing a lot of virtuals, but 8, 10, 12, 2, 4, 6, and 8. I mean, that's 7 demos if you had to. You can even do it 10 o'clock late at night on a virtual if you really need it, right? And that'd be like an 8 demo day. Now, again, if you did 8 demos for 10 days, gosh, that's twice as many as 40, right? But the reality is that would be a pretty exhausting schedule. There's a lot of things that would have to line up to have it happen. My point, though, is we've got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So 6 days left right now. And if you were even doing just, 4 demos each one of those days, that's another 24 appointments you could complete. Cool? All right, good. And number 5 and the final one is just commit to the process. If you don't do the other 4, but you do this one, it'll really be the difference maker. And the reason I share that with you is because this is extremely important to understand that the next 6 to 7 days, right, is an incredible journey. It's an incredible process of growth. It's not easy, but it's totally worth it. So we like to remind you, and I'm sure Claire has mentioned this for the whole 10 days, but this is just another variation, right? Over the course of the next 6 days, you're probably going to have about 2 great days, right? And a great day was kind of like the day after my fast or my advanced training, right? I had 5 demos, 4 sales, 3 homemakers. It feels good, okay? You're also going to have 2 good days. A good day, you might have a couple reschedules or no sales, and then a couple of decent sales. Anything around $1,000 or more is a pretty good day, man. And there's a lot to celebrate with that. Once you're at 30%, I remember doing a demo selling a homemaker, right? And I was like, wow, rent's covered in an hour. That felt pretty good, right? So all it takes is one good sale to make it a good day. And of course, you're going to have a couple bad days. Those bad days are not the ones you want to remember, but they're necessary. If every day was a great day, then the great days wouldn't feel as great. And I had a day where I sold a homemaker to a lady, and then I went and entered it online, and the credit card got declined. So I called them and they said, oh, sorry, I guess we don't have the money. And that was like the homemaker that was going to put me over 10K, and then I was like, I thought I had hit it and then I didn't hit it. And it was so frustrating. Right. And I had some other challenges like that too. When those challenges happen, just realize that's adversity. That's just asking you, how bad do you want it? And it's all about how you respond when it occurs. Cool. And the last one, if you have that extra day, if it's 7 days left instead of 6, you might have one wild card day. We never know what's going to happen. So I need you to know that when you're feeling negative, when you're feeling down, call me. Let me help you. Call Claire. Let her help you. Let us coach you back up. Let me remind you of what a rock star you are. Let me show you the fact that you're on the national sales report. You're going to get a hand-signed letter from our region manager, right? Like, it's not as bad as it feels, but it's never as good as you want it to be, right? And it's just having that mentality as you work forward. So does that sound like something that I can count on you for, that you can commit to?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Good. Any questions on what we've covered so far before we kind of wrap?
No.
Okay. Sweet, man. Well, I'm going to give you my 5 keys right now that I think are really going to make the difference for you. And this will really be more of the actionable steps of what can I be doing with my time if I'm not in a demo, on the phone, right? Or working with Claire Learning. So number 1 is your resources. The most important thing is your names list. And I know you've been getting a lot of recommendations. I know you're through advanced training last night. You probably heard, stick with your initial names for as long as possible. These people love you. They know you. They want to help you and support you with your goals. So certainly not like against the rules to call some referrals, but the best people are on your initial list. So really dig deep, man. A lot of your family is probably never going to jump into selling Cutco. So a good question to ask them is, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, brother, hey, whoever, if you were to start selling Cutco, who would be the people you'd be fired up about showing? Right? And then they can start to kind of make their list. And those are the ones you want to start to work off of. It's the chicken list. That's what we call it. And the people that you know of, but you don't know well. But these people would buy so much if you just asked. One of my favorite examples is my dad's boss was one. I never had met her at the time, but I knew she liked to cook. She owned a couple businesses, did a demo. She already owned like a $2,000 Henkel set. And I did the appointment for Diane. This was the 4th day on the job. And after she wanted to buy a homemaker, and she kind of looked at her husband, smiled, looked at me, and she said, yeah, I'll take it. Right. And I'll never forget that. Right. It was like, why? She had a brand new set of Henkels, and her whole goal was because she wanted to help me, and she loved to cook, and she liked helping out college kids. There's a lady I waited 4 months to call. I wish I would have called her earlier, but she lived down my street, A-frame house. I thought she was like a witch when I was growing up. I used to ride my bike through one of her flower beds. She'd yell at me. And, my dad said, why have you called Miss Mash off? And I was like, dude, she hates me. He's like, well, it's worth a shot. Give her a call. And I called her, and she said, oh my gosh, you're in college now? I love helping college kids. Come on over. By the way, she made me brunch. We did the demo. Her husband wasn't even there. She bought a full homemaker and another like $400 for the gifts. And a year later called me back and upgraded to the ultimate, unsolicited by me, right? So in both scenarios, that $1,000 order helped me level up with my scholarship chance, right? So people want to help, but they don't know how they can help until you ask them, right? So again, getting that 100+ names and numbers on the list is so crucial. The number one thing that holds people back is not a big enough resource list. Okay. So really work hard on that, and don't be afraid to ask people for more names. Number 2 is, again, commitment to the 40 demos, right? Never about days, only about demos. Don't worry about your sales numbers. We know for a fact that if you complete the 40 demos, the numbers will come. So making sure that you know how many you've completed so far and know how far you are away from hitting that 40 demo total. Number 3 is sharing your goals. You need to make sure you ask for help. Everyone needs to know your goals right now. Social media, make them public. Let your family take a selfie with you and post on their social media and tag you in it, right? Whatever we can do to get the word out there, because we know that people are going to buy the knives. The real question is just, will they buy them in the time frame that we have for your contest, right? So again, the more information, and I guess if you want to call it advertising, that we can get out there right now, the more likely you're going to be able to do to get the attention, right? And to be able to do the demos to hit your goal. So again, just making sure you ask for help. Don't be afraid to ask Jaslyn and your friends and any other connections to like help you out, right? And hook you up. I remember a fast start story in Colorado where there was a guy on his very last day who was at $6,000, and he had a couple of appointments they completely rescheduled. So he hit up his brother. His brother, by the way, was like 10 or 11 years old. And he said, come into my room, come over here. I need to talk to you. Hey, I know you got some good friends. I know they got some good parents that like to cook. hook it up. He said, if you help me hit my goal, I will buy you your favorite video game, right? Which was like 50 or 60 bucks. So the kid started calling his friends, getting the parents on the line. He did 3 demos for his brother's friends' parents that day. And one of them bought 3 homemakers and a couple others bought a few sets. And he ended up selling $4,000 the last day and hitting 10,000. So you just got to understand that the potential is out there. Everybody knows somebody that knows somebody, Mike. All right, cool. Number 4 is extraordinary effort. Extraordinary effort. And what this means is whatever effort you've been putting in right now, it's going to take extra over the next 6 days if you really want to hit your goal, right? So again, extraordinary effort with everything you do. And the last one, number 5, is unwavering faith. So unwavering faith means that no matter what, you know it's in the bag. You know you're going to hit your goal, right? It's kind of like, what would you attempt and who would you call if you knew you couldn't fail? If we just assumed that everybody was going to say yes to you, who would you reach out to, right? And if you just focus on that and have that kind of mentality, anything is possible. So I'm going to teach you a quick step. It's called the 11th hour list. And this has saved so many fast starts over the years. So on the very last day, right, you're going to use this, but you have to be building it throughout the other days. So the 11th hour list is basically a conversation at the end of every demo where you thank them and appreciate them and say, hey, by the way, Miss Jones, I don't know if I'm going to hit my goal. And if we're being honest, I'm really nervous about actually reaching it right now. So what I've done is created a list of names and phone numbers of anybody that wants to support me on the very last day. This is not a commitment to buying or a commitment to anything. It's just giving me permission to not feel guilty that if I'm short of my goal on the very last day, I can call you. I can thank you for your order again. You can give me some emotional support and maybe even think of one more person I could demo or possibly buy one more knife to get me closer to my goal. Would you be willing to put your name on the list? and the reality is, Mike, that like anyone with a heart's going to say yes to that, right? They're not buying anything. They're just saying, yeah, of course we want to support you. That's why we bought today, right? So, but now on the last day, if you're short of your goal, you don't feel guilty. And that list, man, those last few hours of the very last day, if you don't have demos, you're working through it. You're calling everybody. We've got a script we'll teach you, right? And you're getting one last order, one more sale, right? We had a guy named Quentin Scott this last summer, and Quentin went out there. He was only at like 3K on a Friday. And then he talked to his friend, and his friend came in for an interview and thought the job was cool. Well, it wasn't for him. So his friend's like, hey, I thought it was cool and the product's great. I'm not going to do it, but if you want to show my family. So on Saturday, he did a demo for his parents, right? His friend's parents. They bought a galley. Then he did one for his friend's grandma. She bought an Ultimate, right? So now he's up to like 5 or 6K. And then that very last day, he was working it, trying to figure it out, calling some of the 11th hour list people. And he had one of his uncles buy an additional homemaker as a gift for somebody. And then he had another one of his family members buy a cookware set, right? And just out of the woodwork, I don't even know where it came from, right? He hit me up. It was like 8:30 p.m. He's like, hey man, I'm at like 9,500. I'm doing one last demo. I think I'm going to hit it. I was like, wow, okay, cool. Like it happened, right? And I could tell you story after story. I've coached 40 people to sell 10K in their fast start or more. And I just got to tell you that 11th hour makes all the difference. So make sure that, again, like I said, in a demo, on the phone or at the office, and really make sure you maximize that. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. So any questions on kind of those 5 keys or anything that we've covered today at all?
No, it's been really clear.
Cool. How have you received that, and how are you feeling about your goals right now?
I'm definitely motivated to get back at it. Also have, like, again, 3 demos today that I know, I'm hoping I know they might get a homemaker or anything, but I definitely know they know a lot of people that will definitely be willing to help out. So I'm ready for it.
Good. Well, definitely ask Claire about, the scripts on how to sell a signature, how to sell an Ultimate. We are willing to hook your family and your friends up with the best deals possible. So the way Cutco works, and you probably know this, is the more you buy, right, the more we can build in the savings, right? And we can do cash discounts or we can do free stuff. So it's one of those things where the more you call, the more you ask questions, the more you try to go to bat for your client and hook them up. Typically, the bigger the orders get and the faster you can excel. So, I mean, with 3 demos today, I would would not be surprised if you're knocking out your 6K promotion. And like we said, all it takes is one. Maybe you're actually getting closer to 7 or 8,000, or possibly even 10. Right? Like I said, we've had
Yeah.
9K orders before when a rep just really gets good at sharing their goals. So make sure you're updating your thermometer. Make sure you're really tying people in to what you've sold so far and where you're going, and everything else as you move forward with all that. Does that sound good?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, I really appreciate the time. Thanks for hanging with us today, and
Yes, sir.
good luck with your fast start.